Hornet revamp images leaked through Around the Verse, and of course, we talk about the Bengal carrier. This week on the BlastCast. Let's get to it. Greetings, citizens. We are back. This, of course, is the BlastCast. Once again, with me is my Bastion of Common Sense Lightning Dragon. My move is finished, and let's never speak of it again. So anyway, there's been a little bit of news going on. I saw something that was in a post, and I also saw it when they did the Around the Verse episode 100. But a great poster by the name of Radiant Flux put these pictures out here, and I'm going to go ahead and put them on the screen as we talk about it. Bear in mind, these images are low res. They're kind of taken off an angled screen and kind of zoomed in on from a YouTube video, so they're not like the highest quality, but I think you can see what we're going to be talking about here. And no, it's not a Hello Kitty dragonfly, though that would be awesome. Or actually, what they had here was, it looks like the Hornet, the redesigned version. And so I'm gonna go ahead and put the first image here on the screen, and what we see here is, for starters, the landing gear is now in the body, not in the wings, and you see that very clearly, and that is a nice change. The wings themselves are a little bit thinner, more sloped. The little tails are more sloped. The cockpit struts, the little pylons on the glass, are pulled back. There's less of them. And as Lightning was looking at the pictures, he said the back kind of looks fat and turtly now, and
it doesn't flow very well, because you have this sleeker, more combat-looking front end. You know, the cockpit's not as bulky. The intakes are like half as wide now, and they slope backwards. You have this very like arrowhead kind of front to the ship. And then it's like, oh wait, it's a Hornet. We forgot it has to have that turret on the back. And to me, it looks like it's the armor paneling, like around where the turret goes, has gotten bigger, and not just overall bigger, because I'm sure it's going to be overall bigger, but it's like unnecessarily bigger in certain areas. And then you have that small engine at the back again, so you have like this like double pear shape, and it's like, it just, to me, the front looks good. Everything else looks worse. I would almost say I'd rather have the old Hornet. I mean, I have a very bad opinion about the Hornet, I guess, but
that's true. That's why I picked the subject, because I knew it was your favorite.
I look at the picture. When you first sent the picture, I'm like, oh yeah, this looks good. And then I kind of zoomed in on the picture a little bit, and I'm like, oh god, no, it looks worse. I can't believe I'm saying this. It looks worse.
Well, aesthetically,
I do really hope they touch up on it.
Yeah.
Because and maybe it's just how it's cropped and moved around or something, but it's like it's not better.
Well, from what I understand, these pictures were on the screen. Chris Roberts was giving a tour on Around the Verse episode 100. It was about 17 minutes 35 seconds in, if you want to look for yourself. Basically, the angle of the screen, and basically what they try to do is they try to take the picture, zoom in, then manipulate it so it kind of came out like more as it was if the screen was flat towards you. So I mean, we have to bear in mind that some of what we're looking at might be distortion due to his kind of his Photoshop work to try to make it look a little bit more normal. So I mean, we do have kind of a skewed perspective, but things I do love about what I'm seeing here is that, first of all, the wings are over the intakes. And so there's no more meshing into the intakes. There's no more clipping through the intakes.
It doesn't look like they're angled down either.
Yeah, they're also thin, like the Gladiator. So they're not these big, fat, bulky things. And as you said, the intakes. Oh man, the intakes. They for lack of better words, the intake in the more shapely nose. It looks like the front of like in Robotech, the F-14 kind of style. It looks like an anime almost. It's really sleek. That front part is really sleek.
Go to the almighty Google here and see if I can look up the plane you're thinking of. Well, I'm thinking of the F-18. I mean, the F-18's got a shroud over top of it, but it has very thin and angled forward
live research here going on.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I'm not a big fan of the F-18. I think it
Yeah.
was a stupid decision um, for various reasons that are not worth going into. But if you look at the F-18, type in F-18 in Google, you'll see about 100,000 pictures of it. It flows very well. It doesn't look disgusting. There's a little bit of a wider part as under or above where the intakes are. The body widens out a little bit bigger than where the intakes are, and it flows back into the main fuselage area where you have like your engines and all that. And then it has 2 exhaust points at the end because it's actually 2 main engines.
Yeah.
And with the Hornet, or not the, well, yeah, ironically, they're both called the Hornet. With the Star Citizen Hornet, you have that same, like, current modern day, fighter cockpit. No, not a bubble cockpit, which is, I'm not sure why they'd gone away from that, but whatever. It's a design choice. It doesn't really matter in space. But you have that actual fighter cockpit, and then again, you have this thing where it's like, oh, damn, well, we have to keep the original Hornet specs. You have this big, wide, bulky middle section that's like more common to a bomber or a scout. I don't know, it's a scout plane, but something that doesn't belong on a fighter. And then it's like, oh, and we better keep the traditional, engine, which is the one engine. But because the body is so much wider, it's dinky front end, turtle middle, dinky rear end. And Jarvis and I were talking about this before, where we think that, like, if they made it like a flat oval, if I'm thinking, ovals are symmetrical, just up and down, not left.
Think of
right.
it like looking through binoculars, how the two points of view overlap. I always see, like in a cartoon, they look through binoculars, and you have the 2 circles are intersecting, so you have the kind of that 8 kind of shape. And
I'm thinking of that's the Super Hornet idea we were talking about. Yeah, the engine on the Gladius, or maybe the Retaliator.
Basically, something that's a little bit wider to fill in that gap.
Wider, yeah, something that looks like it can power it. And then so what you have is, you have, like, let's say you have small, medium, and large engines. This would be like a medium engine, so it fits back there. There's still a little bit of space above it, below it, left and right. So, but it's a bigger engine to power the heavy fighter, the medium fighter, the thing that it actually is supposed to be. And then what you can do is you can step up from that to the Super Hornet. And the Super Hornet, let's say it's designed to be longer range. It's another reason why you have a second person, to keep, your eyes open. Think of it more like the F-14,
Right.
which had, the 2 people. And what you can do is you can widen the back area a little bit, and you can double up on the engines. Maybe say they're 2 small engines that are kind of beefed up, so they're small in their size compared to the medium one, but they're a little bit bigger than something that would only need, 1 small engine. So with the Super Hornet, you'd have additional reliability because you have multiple engines. So if one engine is taken out, you can still come home. And you also have a little bit bigger back area, so maybe you have larger fuel tanks, plus you can have, like, drop tanks. So in a combat situation, the regular standard Hornet would be best for very short hops, like, patrols and stuff, where the Super Hornet would actually gain a role, where right now it's basically a bigger Hornet. So if you had this, twin engine Super Hornet, you'd have a longer range, or an extended range fighter,
like a medium range fighter. Vanguard
Exactly.
being long range, the standard Hornet being short range.
And then you have the Super Hornet, which now gets a role. And so you can have, like, oh, well, you're in Squadron 42, we have to go and, go on this extra long-range patrol, so we want to send you out in the Super Hornet, and you're your co-pilot or whatever who's going to fly Rio with you. So then you have a new mission type. You can really expand on, the mission types you get in Squadron 42. If it's, short, you get like a Gladius, or you get the regular Hornet. Then you can have the Gladiator if it's a bombing mission or escort or whatever, which I imagine would be like a medium fighter role in a bomber setup anyway. And then, your medium range, we have to go out for longer. It's a longer mission. We have to come up to this base or whatever. We don't want to move the carrier too close to this, so we're going to send you in these ships. And then you have, like, extended long range where you'd have like the Vanguard, which hopefully they, make it so it's not crap compared to the current Hornet.
I agree with that.
Yeah, and then obviously you'd have like your Retaliator if it's an actual super long range bombing mission. But the thing about the Retaliator is we've actually seen it in the Bengal carrier teaser where it's actually coming out, but we're not going to have the Bengal carrier immediately. So we might have like a ground base that we can base out of, because I think the Idris is going to be the first ship you serve on, I believe.
Yeah, and that probably be chapter 2. But spoiler alert, we're going to talk about the Bengal too. Anyway, so yeah, one of the things I'm noticing here when I look at the body, it seems that the Hornet has also gotten larger. Now, people are talking about how the Hornet was smaller than the Saber, and it didn't make sense. But the thing is, I always knew that when they reworked it, that the Hornet would have to get larger, because when they originally designed it, they didn't have room for the shields, they didn't have room for the cooling systems. The whole thing, as we talked about before, was like, here's a cockpit, here's a body, here's an engine, slap it together, make a ship. And none of that stuff was accounted for. And so on the new design, from what I'm seeing here, it looks like it's actually, looks like the basic Hornet is bigger than the Super Hornet, and by a fair measure. And the thing is, though, as I look at it, though, there's two design things that still kind of bug me about the Hornet. One is the little flaps at the end of the wings that curl down, because what I'm thinking when they go into atmosphere, because that's why some of these vehicles have wings, because they are atmospheric as well. When those wings kind of fold back, you just have made yourself a real nice air brake.
You'd have to fly with the wings forward if you were in atmosphere.
Yeah. In fact, in space they'd be folded back. The second you hit atmosphere, those suckers have to come straight out, and maybe that's the intent. But there's no way those things could fold back, and not in fly any sort of sense of realism. Also, as well, the tail, as we were talking about, how with the larger body, the engine looks smaller, which gives it that kind of that teardrop shape. And the tail, it makes it look a bit more superfluous. It has this tacked on feel.
Oh man, yeah.
And so basically, like, to me, the tail needs a little fleshing out, or at least a better blending into the body, because right now, when I look at these images, the tail kind of sticks out as is it something that could be removed from the body, and it serves no practical function. Now, if they stuck thrusters at the tip of the tail or something, then sure, maybe. But I mean, it's one of those things that, because
Time
of the
for
increase,
another Hornet rant from Lightning.
well, it's like because they increased the size, the tail didn't look like it looked like it got thinner and lankier, so it looks even less robust.
So if we go back to the mighty power of Google and one of my favorite airplanes from World War II, the P-38 Lightning. No, that is not where I've got my namesake from. That one, it's more of your Vanguard style, where you have the engines and then they flow back into the tail section. They could still take this same idea and apply it to the Hornet, in the sense where you have the tail sections that they come sweeping back. They're flat on the top and they come back to a point in the back. And what they could do is they could take that and make it really thin, so it's more like a vertical stabilizer, and then you could put some kind of fins on the back for your atmospheric flight, so that it serves a purpose, as opposed to just being something that can take damage when your shields go down. And hopefully they fix the fact that shields are basically worthless in the current game. That's another thing they need to work on.
That's because we don't have the pipeline, and we don't have energy management. We don't really have heat management. I mean, the weapons get hot, but that's about it. And even those are just XML files. But yeah, overall, I think, and this isn't the finished product. I think that,
I should hope not.
No, I think as there's on these pictures, as you can see on these zoomed in images, and you can't read the writing because it is zoomed in. These look like a little bit like notes, like they're written on here, like someone has notated, hey, do this or do this with the part. And the parts they're indicating is the wings and the tail. So it's very possible that these parts are actually still to be adjusted, because you can't, as you said, you can see the images here. You can't read what it says, and if you can, hey, please let me know, because I can't read that. So
I didn't even know there was words on the picture.
Yeah, there's words there. There's arrows. There's the tips of the tails and the wings are highlighted in yellow. And there's words and phrases.
I remember the colors and stuff.
Yeah, and there's red words at the base of the tails and the wings, and there's arrows pointing, like they have some sort of call out there, and maybe because they're not satisfied with it, and that's possible. Also, another thing you're going to notice on it as well is that the thrusters. Okay, on the Hornet, the thrusters on the bottom were kind of centrally based, but also kind of a little bit down, and the top ones were kind of embedded into
like armor plating or something.
Well, yeah, but they were also down more into the lower on the body. Now they've actually moved them up and they're higher on the body, which some people were pointing out it might give them more range of motion because they're at the top. Those thrusters might be able to actually thrust in all directions on the top 180 arc. So meaning that you're going to get maybe a bit more thrust out of it than before, as far as maneuverability goes. So it depends on how they lay this out, and we're dealing with the pipelines, and once you deal with the physics, and if how you move thrusters around the ship can make a big difference. So I mean,
massively so.
So
If you've
we'll see
played
how that
any
goes.
Kerbal Space Program, you know that thruster placement is really important. The most ideal thruster placement, if you're going with very limited thrusters, is right along the center of mass. Now, unfortunately, your center of mass will change as fuel levels drop in Kerbal Space Program, especially, or as pieces get blown off your ship. So having thrusters as far away from your center of mass is the other more ideal situation, but that also has its other problems. If certain thrusters get blown off, you are going to lose your maneuverability very, very rapidly, especially if they are not set up in the way that they can compensate for lost thrusters. Like if you have a thruster, like let's say you have a thruster pod right in the nose, and it goes up, down, left, and right, and they're fixed. Well, that's going to give you really aggressive maneuvering because it's so far away from your center of mass. But because they're fixed, if you lose the right nozzle in the front of your nose, you won't be able to go to the left. You wouldn't be able to thrust to the left like at all, at least from the nose. Now, if you had additional thrusters in the tail section, then you'd still be able to move, but it would be drastically reduced, like 50% less maneuverability just by having one thruster destroyed. However, take that same thruster idea and you make it so that they have like a 180 degree left and right, as well as like a 90 degree up and down. You can point all the way up or forward. You should be able to compensate with one thruster being lost, like that thruster on the right. If it gets lost, yes, you're going to lose some of your rotation, but your top and bottom thrusters can just rotate 180 to the right and compensate for that. So you still lose a little bit of your maneuverability, but it's mostly going to be like a delayed reaction as the thrusters have to turn because a smart system goes, oh, we're missing this main thruster here. So they'll turn and compensate. So you'd have like a delayed reaction, basically. I'm repeating myself here.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. And so basically, I think, guys, this these changes in the Hornet, I think, are really promising. I'm really a fan of the visibility changes to the cockpit, and I'm looking forward. Now, this may be what they're going to be releasing at Gamescom for a flyable ship. They, a re-released concept, if you will. That's very possible because this doesn't look like from this thing that they're done with it yet. This looks like I'm seeing the writing. Looks like they're debating how things are going to go. And with the item port system 2.0, like the Super Hornet, you can open the front cockpit door, the back cockpit door, choose where you want to enter. I'm really looking forward to that. I mean, once that gets up and running, Lightning and I will be flying around the Super Hornet, I'm sure, quite a lot because I want him as my gunner, and it'd be a lot easier to use than
if
Vanguard.
Anybody knows what a Delta Wing type ship is, I would like to see that more as the Hornet. I mean, you've already got a very narrow front end, and I think the only problem with the Hornet really is, like, for my biggest complaint about the current Hornet model is how the engine sits. That is my biggest complaint. The engine looks like it's literally just been glued on. Like you had 3 different model airplanes, and you're like, oh crap, I broke part of it. Well, I'll just take the engine from this P-51 Mustang. Oh yeah. And the new Hornet, the thing that bothers me the most is it doesn't have any sense of flow. You look at the Gladiator, it flows. You look at the Gladius, it flows. You look at the Retaliator, it flows. You look at the 300 series, all these ships have a very aesthetically pleasing flow to them. Nothing looks very out of place or weird. You could say that the 300 series, that upper wing design is kind of strange, and I could see them pulling it down a bit, but it
actually flies.
Someone
built it in Kerbal, and it actually flies.
Yeah. I mean, Kerbal, you can pretty much make anything fly, but I mean, it's still something. But I believe the 300 series, I believe the 300 series isn't one of those that's being remodeled.
Yeah, it is completely. So
Yeah.
anyway, so that's basically the changes to the Hornet, and I don't know if you saw this or not. I haven't seen any threads really, except for that one, and I haven't seen anyone out there putting videos on it. So I thought it was worth bringing up. So let's jump over to the next subject real quick, which was the Bengal update. Um, this to me was massively impressive. It's basically the ship is the size of 3 or 4 battlefield maps, 3 plus decks on it. They said the hangar bay is large enough that you could actually park an Idris inside of it. That's massive. I mean, I can't even. When you see the video here, and of course I'm having it up as we speak. Um, I can't fathom something like this. I mean, I can't even figure out. I mean, their networking code better be darn good because this ship's supposed to hold like around 1,000 people. Basically, you're looking at something that's the equivalent of like, hey, let's build the Enterprise D and then fully populate it, and then basically have you run around in that, and then have that as part like one ship in the server. I can't even imagine the difficulties they're going to have. I mean, I'm really
What you'd
yeah,
have to do, I believe we talked about this in a different episode, is you would
yeah.
have to make it where the inside is 100% separated from the outside.
Oh
Where
yeah,
basically the outside is just a shell that's being told, like one server is talking to another server and says, the shell of the ship is here. So that
right.
server goes, okay, and it draws in the shell of the ship. And until you actually go into a boarding action, like when you're within, I mean, like, let's say you actually have to physically board the ship. Then you get pulled over to a different server. That'd
Right.
be the hardest
But
part of it. It wouldn't be seamless.
it's more than that, though. You see, because with up to like around 1,000 crew, I mean, you're gonna have within the ship. You're gonna to have servers in like the ship itself may have 5, 6, 7 servers for each different area of the ship. You may have a server for the engine room. You may have a server for the crew quarters. You may have a server for
I would hope that they'd optimize their code to allow this. But this brings up another point in where I think, Chris Roberts has stated he wants everyone to have a job. And the Idris, it has a 5-man minimum crew. He wants 5 people to play this. And he talked about that was going to be like the only ship that's going to be soloable, an NPC crew. And then he was talking about, maybe that's not true. I think
Yeah, that's the
when
debate.
when the logistics side of these larger ships comes into play, I think we're going to see a change where it's like, okay, to save on some CPU cycles and stuff, we're going to make it so that any one person can fly these large ships as long as they have enough money to pay for the crew. I hope that's going to be a thing, because if it's not a thing, you're not going to have these large ships. No one's going to want
No.
to fly an Idris
Well,
or the Javelin Destroyer, because it's just going to take too many
yeah.
people.
Well, the Bengal itself initially, I mean, let's probably look at it more realistically. It probably won't be out until the chapter 2 of Squadron 42.
Next year, maybe
Yeah,
spring at the earliest.
and the
Summer.
first time you see it, it's going to be only run on your PC, so they won't have any server issues because it's not going to be on one. Now,
you'll have the streaming software, which only loads chunks of the ship at a time. Like
exactly.
as you've probably seen with the Starfare, where certain chunks of the ship are unloaded until you get close to them.
Yeah. So, but and even if they bring it into persistent universe, first of all, they said that there's going to be like only one somewhere out there in the universe that players can find, defend, rebuild, and try to take, and it's persistent. And
was it
I don't.
one? I thought it was like 2 or 3.
Maybe it was 2 or 3, but at least there's at least one out there. And so the thing is that first of all, even if I had the largest guild you could think of, which I don't, but even if I did, I wouldn't want to have to deal with a ship like that. I mean, that'd be like dealing with a Titan and Eve that you could never dock. It just sits out in space and it's vulnerable to anybody at any time. Man, you know that people will come to beat on that thing, and I wouldn't even want to fathom the dynamics of keeping that thing protected. Oh yeah, that would be ugly.
It'd be like one of those things where it's a multi-guild alliance where one guild owns the Bengal, and then you have multiple guilds that come in there for like, okay, a lot of us are going to bed. We got some EU guys here. Oh yeah, we're just getting on. We're gonna play for a couple hours. Great. I want you guys to go out there and protect the Bengal. You can run missions from it. We've parked it in an area that's a hot zone. I mean, you'd have to have 100 to 200 people in an alliance, if not more, just to to run missions out of it, basically.
Now I will say this: if you're a mining corporation and you park a Bengal right over your mining ships, you're safe. You're absolutely safe. No one's gonna screw with your miners. You're done. You could have the thing could be empty of fighters. They will never know if you don't open that door. No one's gonna screw with you. That thing's they said it has over 90 turrets on the top. They're mixed between missile and standard like energy weapon turrets, and it's got that one big turret at the bottom.
Imagine all the point defense. You can even launch missiles at this thing.
Well, it's also got a turret in the bottom. It says it's the size of an Idris. So
Yeah.
I mean,
it has an Idris turret.
So I mean, yeah, that's just one of those things that this ship is absolutely. It's beautiful. I think it's coming along. They say they're about 70% there, getting the things working the what they want to get working, and yeah, I think this is it's so impressive when you because you know the Bengal was the first thing that we saw, the very first trailer. Of the game, and to see how far it's come along, and the coloring is nicer,
Yeah,
the texturing's
just
nicer.
the different change of the colors and the overall
yeah.
shape. I mean, it was kind of boxy at first. It's a bit more rounded out now.
And the colors are really bright. They were kind of a brighter green, and now they're like this olive, kind of light olive drab military. Yeah, kind of gray and a little bit faded. And so to me, it's like it has a much better look, and I'm really excited to see this. Even if they just keep the doors closed, and I'd love to fly past one of those sometimes, you know, just to really see what they've done with it. But anyway, guys, don't know if we'll have additional videos out this week. It depends on what, of course, depends on potatoes.
I don't know.
It depends on what RSI Cloud Imperium does this week. As I said, I just finished moving, and the house is a mess, so it's a good time to do some unpacking. But if anything comes out, I will go ahead and get another video out to you guys and give you my thoughts.
It'd be really awesome. We should do Space Engineers, because you know how I have that semi 2-scale battleship.
Yeah.
We should try and basically just boxing them out.
Yeah.
Take Space Engineers, we'll box out how big an Idris is, we'll box out how big like a Retaliator is, and then we'll box out how big the Bengal carrier is.
Well, your
maybe
computer could probably handle it now.
Yeah. No, if we just build basic boxes, I think it'll be okay. We can round them out a little bit.
Yeah.
But it'd be interesting to see that, because like you said, it's really hard to just imagine how big this is. And I was just thinking, it's like, you know, I went and I made that 2-scale battleship. It's a World War II battleship. I based it off of one of the early German ones.
We may not have
like
to.
100 and... Why not? Do you think someone's already got a scale thing up?
Well, not at Space Engineers, but there's a program you can download. It's done with the Unity engine, where you can actually even use it with the Oculus. I saw the thread on it. It's a standalone program. You download it, and you can actually. It has the wireframe models with like kind of grayed out, and basically you can walk around this virtual environment and see all the different ships and their scale side by side already. And so
pretty interesting.
Yeah, and if I can find out, I may send you that link sometime here. I gotta take a look for it. Anyway, guys, I'm sure this has been a pretty long one, but you know, give us your thoughts. What do you think of the Hornet design from what you see here? What did you think about the Bengal? Do you think they can pull off something like this? Let us know down in the comments below. I mean, I think the Hornet design overall is better. I think they can do the Bengal because, hell, we did something like this in Star Wars Galaxies. Maybe not that scale, but I mean, this technology of these instancing on the side of ships versus outside and things like that, it was done more than a decade ago. These are things that are coming back up. Like when I was a young kid, I had a Sega Master System and it had 3D glasses and I had 3D video games, and now it's coming out again, and everyone's just like, this is so new.
We've never seen this before.
Yeah, and it's
really?
like it's just a resurgence of an older
other
tech.
Games?
Yeah, so it's just like, you know, there's things like that. Things come around, you know. So and sometimes when they come around, they get a little bit better, but then they become a fad, then they fall out of fad, and then they you know, they come back again and they're better than last time. That's how it all works. That's how technology works. A lot of times things fall in and out. So anyway, guys, thanks for listening. We will catch you next week, and hopefully my house will be a little less full of boxes and things will be placed a little bit better. Thanks for listening, guys.
Bye-bye.
The first thing I want to talk about today is, of course, the big Gamescom concept ship reveal. Of course, they haven't said what the ship is going to be, but they did state that the ship that's going to be revealed at Gamescom, the concept ship, will actually be flyable